All right, I'm here with Francis Hamit here at Worldcon at Denvention 3, having a fun time. Francis, how are you doing today?
The place is just really too big, JC. Places like this is why I gave up trade magazine journalism back in the 90s. It was just too hard to walk all this distance. And the panels are interesting. I'm seeing some old friends here like Joe Haldeman and Harry Turtledove. I have not published any science fiction yet, but I've been a fan for like 30 years. This is my 103rd convention, my 8th Worldcon.
Oh, you have quite a list there of experience there then.
Yeah, my first Worldcon was Boston in 1980, and the only thing I'll say about that is a lot of women were very kind to me. And I remember them all with favor.
Now, I understand you are an author.
Yeah, I've been a professional writer for 42 or 43 years now. I'm a graduate of the Iowa Writers Workshop. I was a trade magazine journalist. I did about 1,000 magazine articles. I got back to my roots in fiction and drama in 2002 finally, because I figured I'm not getting any younger, I better get some stuff out. And while it would have been nice to do a science fiction novel, I was more or less obsessed with the story of Belle Boyd, so I wrote a book called The Shenandoah Spy, which is not science fiction, but it uses some of the same techniques in terms of narrative. Mm-hmm. It's historical fiction, it's espionage fiction, it is even, to some degree, feminist fiction.
Hey, that's always a good thing.
And, some people would call that science fiction right there.
Oh.
But Belle Boyd was the first woman in American history to be made an Army officer. She was actually a Confederate Army spy and scout. She operated from the midst of Union headquarters, which was in a hotel that her uncle had owned in 1862, right before the Battle of Front Royal. It was in Front Royal, Virginia. The building still exists. You can find it. It's right across from the train station. Mm-hmm. The thing about Belle was that she was extremely charming, like most Southern women. But the other thing about Belle was that she was also brave to the point of foolhardiness. In the early part of the war, which is the first part of the book, the Union militia troops that had been raised, the 90-day men, invaded her hometown of Martinsburg, Virginia. There was a home invasion there with some drunken soldiers the following day on the 4th of July. She ended up shooting and killing one of them. And she was sort of given a drumhead court-martial and acquitted on self-defense grounds. But this motivated her to spy for the South, because she figured somebody had to do something about these horrible people. Mm-hmm. And she was friends with Turner Ashby, who was the commanding officer of the 7th Virginia Cavalry. I sort of detail the steps that she had to go through, because there was considerable resistance to sweet, delicate women, folk in the South doing this kind of thing. The problem was with Belle that she was 5'10", which was 2 inches taller than the average man, and nobody had ever described her as delicate, and it would be a hard sell today especially. She was a crack shot with a pistol, and she was also a very brave horsewoman. She could ride standing on the saddle at a gallop, and sometimes did, just to show off when she was younger. She was well educated, at a seminary in Baltimore. She had friends all over the region, and Union officers simply did not take her seriously. And then there was the Union officers who were hired from abroad, the professionals to help train and run the Union Army. And one of those fell in love with her. He was a Union staff captain for James Shield. His name was Daniel Kiley. It was sort of a mutual seduction, as I outline it in the book. But he was drawing up the plans to capture her ultimate boss, Stonewall Jackson, and she at one point rode 15 miles each way in the dead of night to find Turner Ashby and deliver those plans to him, which allowed Jackson to surprise the Union troops at the battle at Front Royal. The Battle of Front Royal was basically, very little Union resistance, because they had pulled out all of their troops to go after him. He surprised them. He rolled the Union lines back 60 miles into Maryland, and Belle ran across the battlefield at Front Royal. There are eyewitness accounts of this, to deliver further critical intelligence to him and to tell him the situation in the town. For this, she was ultimately arrested by the Union. They ultimately figured it out, and they put her in jail 3 times. They threatened to hang her. They did a lot of different things. But after this particular volume ends, this is the first of 5, in September of 1862, she became the first woman formally commissioned an Army officer in American history. Stonewall Jackson made her a captain and aide-de-camp, a captain of scouts. There is evidence that she may have risen as high in rank during the war as lieutenant colonel.
Would
but
be
that's
impressive.
a later book.
Okay.
That's a later book, and that women spies became more accepted and were used in greater numbers. But Belle was always one of the leading lights of that. This is a long-time project of mine. I originally found this story by doing Belle's short biography for the Britannica when I was one of about 4,000 people hired to help revise the Micropedia back in the 80s. I'm a sort of an intelligence historian. I did the alphabet agency articles, the CIA, KGB, and all of that as well, and some other personalities like Ralph Van Damon and Edward Lansdale are also ones that I originated for them. But the thing about Belle is, as a friend of mine once said, if nothing else, it's a hell of a story.
Well, it certainly sounds like it.
The book, by the way, has gotten 5-star reviews consistently from Military Writers Society of America, from Historical Novel. It's online. It's not like it's not been read by anybody.
Well, it sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a big history buff, but even I'm intrigued.
Well, good.
Well, is there a website that you have that you want our listeners to know about?
BrassCannonBooks.net.
BrassCannonBooks.net.
Which will tell you pretty much everything you need to know. Will guide you to other pages for books about Belle and about the Civil War, and also for our Cafe Press page, which has all of that neat affinity merchandise like T-shirts. That's our motto on our bookmarks. Read the book, buy the T-shirt.
That's a pretty good motto. Thank you for the interview. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Thank you very much, JC. It was nice running into you at Worldcon, and I hope you send me a copy of this that we can run on the section of our webpage called Podcasts.
Absolutely.
I scream and shout so you can hear. I tell you that the end is near. I still can't stand, I still can't think. You win me with my favorite drink. Give me that glass, though I feel asinine. And if I can't grump, I'll drink plum wine.